Okay guys, hi, welcome to Motivational March. My name is Kitty and today we're talking about how to get started with teaching classes. So I teach performers and instructors how to make more money. I'm a professional performer for burlesque, circus and dance, but I also have been a teacher for 20 years, so well, longer than 20 years. I started off as a ballroom teacher, then I opened a kids dance school. I specialised in hip hop and cheerleading there, and then over time that's evolved into me teaching burlesque and circus. And I run a UK-wide burlesque business, and I also did run a UK-wide circus business that I sold this time last year. So I know loads about teaching, how to fill your classes and how to make money from teaching skills. Okay, so today I'm really talking to the people who might be thinking about starting up some kind of classes or teaching for the first time, who have been going to classes or who've been performing and who are now thinking, oh, I think I'd like to have a little go at that. Okay, so if you are thinking about starting your own classes, first of all, there are some legal requirements that you need to think about. So firstly, you don't actually need to have, by law in the UK, any qualifications, okay? However, having qualifications does give you clout when you're doing your marketing and when you're doing your advertising. If I say to you guys, I've been a ballroom qualified instructor of the past 20 years, I'm a acro qualified instructor, I am a cheerleading qualified instructor, when I start reeling those off, you're gonna think I know what I'm talking about and be more likely to come to my classes than someone who's just randomly started up a class. So in burlesque, in circus, yes, some of the qualifications are not necessary. However, doing continued professional development is always important. Like, I like to do courses and do qualifications and do extra training because, one, it makes me a better teacher, two, I can learn from other teachers how they do things, three, I can put it in my marketing and it does a good job for me, okay? But I just want you to realise that just because qualifications out there exist doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have them by law in this country. You don't, okay? And I'm saying that as somebody who runs an instructor training business. I don't want to trick people into thinking they have to do my instructor training to be able to teach. You don't. You could just go and set up a class tomorrow. However, it's a fast track, isn't it? Like, the things that you're going to learn in instructor training or doing a qualification is going to make you more competent. It's going to make you understand quicker how to set up classes, how to run classes safely, etc, etc. It also makes it easier to get insured, okay? Which is my second point. You need insurance, okay? So all dance teachers, circus instructors, burlesque instructors, whoever you are, you need to have public liability insurance. Now, for some of you guys, you're already performers and you'll have public liability insurance for your performing, but if you start teaching, you then need to add that on to your existing insurance. Your performing insurance won't cover you for teaching unless you've requested that explicitly, okay? So for me, I always say to you guys that I use Reece Astley or Equity. They're the two that I would recommend to you guys if you're in the UK, because they cover everything, yeah? So in my insurance, I'm covered for teaching, performing, and it covers like all specialities. I do like loads of specialist stuff like aerial, fire, things like that. They all have to be added on. So those ones cover those things, okay? So insurance is really, really important. Obviously, if you've got insurance, you need to do risk assessments on your classes, particularly if you're teaching, well, you should be doing it anyway, irrespective of what you're teaching, but if you're teaching things like aerial skills or anything dangerous of any description, you should 100% be having really concise risk assessments, okay? If you don't have a risk assessment in place and you're teaching and something happens, your insurance might not be valid, okay? So it's really, really important that you're covering yourself with these things. I teach you guys how to do risk assessments. If you do my instructor training, I teach you how to do it in there. If you do any of my courses, I teach you how to do it in there. I've also done loads of like free trainings on risk assessments and the things that you need to put in there. But if you're like, I don't have a clue and you want baby stepping through it, then I teach how to do risk assessments in courses. Next, you're going to need first aid training. So if you are in the UK, you by law need to be first aid trained if you are doing a public facing job. You are responsible for your students. It doesn't matter whether they're kids or they're adults. It's your responsibility to be able to provide first aid care, unless you pay a first aider to be at your classes all the time, all right? But you can't just use somebody who comes to classes and is a first aider and be like, they're the first aider, because they won't be insured, okay? So it's really important that you have first aid training. These online first aid trainings are nonsense, okay? I'm going to say that until I'm blue in the face. Stop doing online first aid trainings. You are not covered. You need a first aid training that is partially face-to-face and that is off-qual registered, okay? So if it's got the off-qual stamp on it in the UK, it's a good one. If it doesn't have the off-qual thing on it, it's not a good one. If it's purely online based, you're not covered, okay? If something happens in your class, you need to be able to provide first aid to a person. And if you've never done first aid on somebody in a training, like, it's already terrifying doing it if you've been fully trained. Like, I trained to be a doctor for 5 years and I've had to give first aid to many people before, and it's always really, really scary. You're always getting a bit of a panic when you're doing it, because obviously it's a scary situation. So if you've never ever put your hands on a person to do it, or a dummy to do it, you've just done some kind of online training, you are not going to be able to deliver that to the level that it needs to be delivered at. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you might think you're skirting around having to do a day somewhere learning it, and it's cheaper, but actually you're not covered by law if you've not done a face-to-face one, okay? If you want to know some really good first aid companies, I can recommend some to you. You can just pop me a message, okay? But you will need first aid training. So if you're setting up your own classes, let's say you're a performer or you're someone who's been going to a class and you're thinking like, I think I could do this. I'd love to be delivering like my own routines or whatever, and I think I could do it. Then you must have those things, okay? Insurance, risk assessments, first aid training, and ideally some kind of formal instructor training or qualification, just to make sure that you're ticking all the boxes. You don't need the instructor training though. I'm just going to point that out by law. The other three though, you do, okay? Next, you're going to need to think about, how are you going to be teaching? Are you going to be working for somebody else and applying for jobs? Or are you going to be setting up your own classes, okay? So if you're working freelance, when I started, I was working for someone else. So I was like working for a sports company, and I delivered dance to primary schools in the day, and in the evening I worked at my old dance school where I'd been trained as a kid, okay? So I did both. And then eventually the lady who ran my dance school retired, and I set up my own studio, okay? But before I set up my own studio, I started teaching in social clubs or community centres and things like that, where I would hire a room and then I would get people to come to my classes. So most of the people that do my instructor training, that's where they start. They start with hiring a room somewhere and getting people in for like 1 or 2 classes a week. That is always how I would start out. I started out doing it that way as well. And then once I built up enough classes, then I went off and I got my own studio, okay? But I built it up over time so that I knew that I would have enough to transfer it over to having my own studio, okay? What you don't want to do is go signing a lease on something and then not being able to get people in. Yeah, that's like the worst thing ever. If you hire a room for like, when I started out, I used to hire a room once a week on a Wednesday, and it was like 15 quid for me to hire it for the whole night. So I used to come in at 4:30, and then I used to teach like 5 classes during the night, and my only outgoings was 15 quid. So you can imagine how much money I used to make from those classes. I used to have like, I think at one point I had 40 kids in my street dance class and they were all paying like £3.50 each. So I was making 150 quid in that class for just one class, and then I had like other classes on top of that class as well, and my outlay was like 15 quid. So it was really, really profitable. If you're smart about it and you use things like social clubs and stuff like that, then you can definitely make a really good profit. What I see people doing, like, is people going straight for hiring like mirrored studios, which is great, it looks really professional and stuff like that. However, they cost a lot of money, like 30, 40, 50 pound an hour to hire a mirrored studio. If you've never taught classes before, it's going to be a while before you're even breaking even. You've got to get X amount of students into your class before you even pay for that room. Whereas if you do something smart, like hire a social club or hire a community centre or something like that while you get your classes going, then you can move to a mirrored studio when you know that those classes are at capacity and you're always going to be getting people in every week. Does that make sense? So these are just like little tips that I would give to people who are starting out. Yeah, obviously then when you've got like really busy classes and stuff, you might think about having your own studio, which I've done, and then that often then becomes more profitable because you've got the studio all the time, so you can rent it out to other people, you can run parties and things like that. Like there's more potential, but I wouldn't start off there. I'd always start off small and then incrementally increase as I go along. Because you can literally start a business like this with no money. I had no money when I started my dance teaching business. I was like working for someone else, and then when I set up my own business, again, I was paying 15 quid for room hire and getting people in. Yeah, and these days as well, we're all in a lucky position these days because we have social media. When I started my business, it was literally like you had to be like flyering through people's doors. I spent like hours like walking around local estates and stuff, putting flyers through doors and paying to put adverts in the local newspaper. We don't have to do any of that nonsense these days because we've got access to social media. We can be using our social media to post in community groups and things like that, to be posting it in local burlesque or circus groups or dance groups or whatever kind of thing you're going to be offering. You can do it for free now, so that is the beauty of it. All right. Also, to get people into our classes, we want to be making sure that we are being super visible, okay? So I want to be really, really visible when I'm setting up a new class. I want people to see who I am, what I'm about, what I'm offering, why my classes are different to other people. Now, I'm not going to talk about visibility today because I've talked about that in depth in the visibility tutorial, so go back and watch that. That visibility tutorial applies to whether you're a performer, whether you're teaching classes, whether you're selling apples, whatever. It makes no difference. Being visible is really, really important, and I've given you loads of examples how you can improve your visibility there, okay? So they will be the things that I will be doing to get started. If you're like somebody who would love to teach classes but you are like, oh, I don't know how I would like think of the dances and stuff like that, or I don't know how I'd like create the choreography, or I don't know how I would structure a class, then do a structured training. Go out and find a structured training that suits you and go and do it. Like I have a structured training for burlesque, I also have a structured training for aerial, but there's loads out there. There's loads of choice. Like I would say, like, just even if you're the most experienced performer, sometimes it's just nice to see how other people do things. And also with a lot of trainings these days, they give you extra resources, like they give you templates on how to do your risk assessments, they give you class structures, like my ones give you videos and choreography and all things like that. Loads of them do that these days. So really, if it's something that you want to do, I'm talking to new people here, not experienced teachers, but I'm talking to people who are thinking, I'd love to go out and teach a class, but I've not got a clue how I would set it up, how I would create the choreography, how I would structure my classes. Then just go out and do like some kind of instructor training that provides all that stuff for you. Because my one, we even go through how to create a business plan, how to set up your business, how to do your marketing. I even do marketing templates for everybody, so they don't even have to create their own social media templates, they can just do it. like we link back to from our social media to their classes directly, so we promote them too. Like all those things are such a help for a new business. So find a training that does those things for you, because some qualifications are great and they're gonna like give you the qualification, but they might not give you the business expertise. So make sure when you're paying for a training that you're finding one that will teach you all those things. Okay. Also want to talk about retaining students, because it's all well and good getting students into your classes through your marketing, but if you're not retaining your students, then that can be a problem. Like a lot of new instructors, I see them not failing but not doing great because they concentrate on getting more and more and more and more people through the door, but they don't concentrate on keeping the people that they already have entertained. So making sure that, like for me, retention, I want to create a community. When someone walks through the door of my dance school, it has to have a community vibe. If it doesn't have a community vibe, people won't stay. And I think a lot of people don't understand that the majority of people who come to a class, whatever that is, don't come for the specific thing. They come for the community, and they definitely stay for the community. There are 1,000,001 different dance or aerial or whatever classes around that people can go to, but people will stay in your class because they enjoy the community. They come for the extra stuff, the chatting to their friends that they've made, the interaction with you, the extra events that you put on. So we run like shows or outside events. It might even just be like going for dinner, or it might be like when I did kids classes, we'd do like a sleepover, or it could literally could be anything, but things outside of that class so that people feel like they're part of a family. Like when I was a kid and I went to dance classes, I was so loyal to my old dance teacher that I used to drive like every week back from university to teach a class through my whole medical degree. Every week I taught 2 classes a week, one on a Wednesday and one on a Sunday, and I drove all the way back from university to my hometown to run those classes. And that's because I felt like I was part of the community. I felt like they were kind of like my family, even though they weren't. And that's always the vibe that I always create. I used to run like classes in Manchester, and because I taught adults, we'd go to the pub afterwards, or I taught ballroom, so we'd go to the local salsa club every now and again afterwards. Like, and that just created, it just creates a community. I'd ask people how they were, I'd learn people's names, I'd find out about their like families and stuff. 1, because I'm a nosy cow and I love to know the ins and outs of everybody's lives. But 2, when you're speaking to someone and you ask, oh, how was your daughter's birthday? How's your dog doing? Has it got its leg fixed yet? That makes people feel like they're part of something. It makes them feel like they're a family and they're not just coming to a soulless dance class every week. So if you want to retain students, these things are really important. Learning about them. Like when I taught kids classes, we would sit in a circle at the beginning of the lesson every single week, and we'd go around the circle and each kid would get to tell me something fun that had happened to them that week. Yeah, and that would be like really good for us getting everybody in and getting ready to start the class on time, but it would also make them feel like they were part of something, to the point that they would come rushing in some weeks because they're desperate to tell you about something. And that's a really, really important part of creating a community. That is the crux of being successful at any kind of business. Like even successful Showgirl, it is a community. Everyone who's in these groups feels like they're part of the community. If you come to one of our events, you feel like you know some of the people already, even though you've not met them before. Community is what keeps people coming. Okay, so if you're going to be setting up any kind of classes or anything like that, just want you to bear that in mind, that you want to make it where people feel like it's their safe space, it's the place that they want to come, even when they're like in a, you know, when it's winter and you just can't be arsed, you just want to sit on the sofa and you want to have a glass of wine watching shit TV. Like, you want those people to not want to do that because they can't wait to come to class and like chat about something, or learn the next thing, or have a rant about their husband because they're doing their wedding this week. Whatever it is, you want to create that space where people want to come and spend time with you. And I'll also tell you this as well, you are the person, you are the thing that sells your classes. It's not how good the choreography is, it's not the price of the class, it's not the, it's literally not anything else. It is you, how you teach, how you interact with people, how you show up as a person, your values, your banter, your integrity, the way you run it. It's all about you. So if you're not doing this already and you're running classes, you need to be showing up on your social media as you, as the person. Like, I've noticed, like, I run Showgirl Sass and I've done this for like many years, and I've noticed that since I've stopped making it so professional on our social media, and I've started like using more of my personality, like in some of the posts I swear, because that's the kind of teacher I am. So if you're coming to my class and you're expecting someone that doesn't swear, then it's not going to be for you. I also like putting some like funny banter and stuff like that on our in our posts and things like that, and that has attracted a lot more people to do my instructor training than when I'm trying to make it look super professional like some of the other instructor trainings. And that is purely because people want to join it because they align with my values and they align with my personality, and they're the kind of people that I want to have in my instructor training, and they're the kind of people that you're going to want to have in your class. You're going to want to have students that are similar to you, they hold similar values, they've got similar personalities, because it just makes it so much easier to run a business when you're surrounded by your people. Does that make sense? So they're the things that I just want you to think about. If you're thinking of starting up classes, then do it. Go ahead, give it a try. If you want more help, I have an instructor training. It's a showgirl dance instructor training, so I teach all different styles of dance for adults, so burlesque, showgirl, floor work, chair, props, so fans, cheerleading, there's some cheerleading there, some commercials, some hip hop. We do everything in that, and I give my students choreography, I give them social media templates, I also teach them like a full business plan, how to set up their business and how to maximise profits and get students through the door, and all kinds of different things, and they get to come to my events for free and things like that. So if you're thinking of doing something like that, I've got one. But if you're thinking about doing something different, then go out there and find someone who will train you and give you as many resources as possible that's going to help you on your journey. All right? Don't let not being sure on how to do things be an obstacle, because there's always someone out there that you can learn from who can teach you how to do it. All right, everyone, I'm going to leave that there today. It was a bit of a sales pitch at the end, but not really. I just want you to understand that you don't have to do everything alone. You're going to be able to find someone who can help you do these things. Whether you come to me or whether you go to somebody else, I'm not bothered, but just don't not follow your dream and not achieve your goals because you don't know how to do it on your own. Yeah, find someone who will help you. All right, that is the end of my talk today. Tomorrow, what am I talking about? I wrote it down. Creating a signature workshop. So this is going to be for the people who are already teaching, who are thinking, I want to create some kind of workshop. Or maybe you're a performer and you're not teaching, but you have a like specialist style and you want to create a workshop that you can sell to festivals and things like that. Then that's going to be the one for you. All right, everyone, I will see you all tomorrow.